Diego, good to see you. Diego Scotti is here to talk to me about something that puzzles me a little bit. And I'm so glad that you're here, but that you're who you are, because I think you're in on the whole question here about companies that say that they are going to do the right thing. They're going to do the socially responsible thing in this moment where customers, including young customers, of which you have many, are looking for that. Talk to me about companies that talk to me about the connection between the sense of urgency that exists for companies to do the right thing and how that really happens for you at Verizon. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, how do I know? Everybody I deal with says that they're socially responsible and they do the right things and they're trying to advance things in society. How do I know you're doing it, and how do you even know you're doing it?
Well, first of all, it's great to be here with this audience and with a big part of a global citizen. And you know, one of the things that we're really strong believers is that it doesn't matter how big a corporation is, if we don't all come together to do things together, we're not going to make the impact that we need to make. But listen, for us, it starts with a company as big as Verizon, any company as big as Verizon. If we are not leaving something behind in terms of also the profits that we take from the world and what we do for the world, we're not doing our jobs well. And I'm not talking about philanthropy, and that's answering your question, a big part of the way we approach things, which is we decided to make what we call responsible business a central part of our strategy in terms of how do we do business, how do we run our operations. And the interesting thing of that video that you just saw is that, I mean, for us as well, that's the obvious part. If we're not thinking about communications and the access to internet and wireless access in the world, then we're not doing our job. And this is a really important issue, because if you think about it, yeah, when you go to Europe, 90% of the people have a connection to internet. When you go to Africa, only a third. And a lot of places in the world, the same situation. So for us, it's been about how do we create accessibility to the technology, how do we get people to then afford it, so the affordability piece is a big one, and then the applications that run in all of this technology and how people get access to that. The program that you saw there, which is getting kids in high school access to the internet, we take schools for a period of 2 years, we have 600 of them in the country, and we give every kid in the school a tablet, the access to the internet, and then a curriculum for the teachers to teach, which is a really interesting program that now is run for 10 years. So in this world that kind of like everything is flaky, having something for 10 years is a real miracle. But we already reached 3 million kids that can learn through technology. So it's a big deal.
How do you marry the culture, though, of a brand promise or a set of commitments like responsible business with a company that's got 118,000 people? How does that permeate the job of the Verizon person who comes to my place to, you know, install my my files? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you make sure this isn't just a C-suite initiative that makes it out into marketing versus an actual company culture?
Well, first of all, our purpose, which is we create the networks that move the world forward, is something that everybody in the company, no matter if you work in marketing, on the field, in the stores, or you're an engineer, that's what we're here to do. So when your purpose is that, of course, we need to sell our services, make sure that our network is the most reliable, but then we need to do this kind of thing. That is what then gives everybody access to what we do. So, you know, it requires an important, for us, what it changed everything is when we stopped talking about philanthropy and we start talking about, no, this is part of our business. This is part of what we do. And by talking to employees, it started to get everybody really committed to the effort.
Let's talk about how you take the idea of responsible business, which you call it, into action. What do you do as the Chief Marketing Officer? How do you use Verizon's position as one of the largest advertisers in America to actually move the needle?
Well, you know, coincidentally, I had a slide for that. But, you know, it's when you talk about marketing and what can we do to be responsible, yeah, of course, we can do what we do best, which is communicate what the company is doing, connect with our audiences to drive messages that are relevant. But then there is this whole other aspect of marketing, which is, well, the actual marketing can actually be the change, not just talking about the change. So what you see here is we call this the Responsible Marketing Action Plan. 6 years ago, we embarked in this journey, which was, listen, we're going to change from the ground up the way we operate to actually drive marketing as change. And these are the 4 areas that we looked at. One is the diversity of the talent that works on Verizon and our agencies, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. Second, how do we think about the investment that we make in production across everything that we do in marketing to make sure that it is with companies that are diverse, so we support that diversity. How do we then avoid bias in everything that we do in our communications? And then how we protect brand safety. And we took the to your point, you were asking me, how do you measure? Everything that we're doing in these 4 areas is about putting some targets out there, right, measuring every quarter to make sure that we're making progress. And like they say, anything that you measure actually gets done.
One of the other areas about this is not just being outward-facing, or as you discussed, the culture of every engineer, everybody in a store. It's the idea that your employee body has to be reflective of the audiences that the customer groups that you serve. You've got numbers on that as well, I trust.
Yes, and I tell you, I've been in Verizon now for 8 years, and even when I just joined Verizon, these guys were already talking about the importance of having a diverse workforce overall. And for marketing, that is fundamental. I know that there are a lot of marketeers here. It's because, especially for a brand like us that talks to everybody in America, how can I do a good job as a marketer doing that if my team doesn't reflect what America looks like? So let me show you this slide, because what we did 6 years ago when we started this journey is I called all of our agencies and I said, can you please report to us the numbers on diversity, people of color, and women. And when I got all those letters back, the results weren't very good. And we were doing okay, but not great. So what we decided to do is that we're going to meet together every quarter, and everybody's going to report to each other. This is all of our agencies. We have around 25 agencies, and look at our numbers. Our target was very, very easy. We're going to look like America. That's it, the workforce. So it's not other science like that. But those are our latest numbers that we have from Q1. So we got it now at 40% on the people of color, which is really good considering that in overall in our industry is around 32%, and women 9% of the workforce in marketing and our agencies are women, and it's incredible. And actually, thank you. But it's a thank you to the teams, the commitment to measure this and work on. It's not easy when you already have a workforce and you need to get these numbers up. That means that you need to hire as well, not only the right talent, because we don't want to go the other way on this, but at the same time ensure that we have the focus on this. So it's great progress,
Excellent. Let's talk about the people who are visible on the outside, the talent that you've got. This is, of course, another issue in marketing and advertising, whether the faces behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, reflect the audience. You've also taken some steps there.
I love this topic, and I show you the numbers because, while I mentioned this, because usually when we talk about diversity in marketing, we talked about the people that are in front of the camera, right? Is the brand doing a good job at showing diversity? And of course we are. But what happens, to your point, everybody that is behind the camera? So we made a big decision to say we're going to put our money where our mouth is. We're going to hire production companies on video that are diverse. The same thing we did with print advertising or print production. And you see in here where we started in 21 with that line there, where we are with our target for 22, and where we are at the beginning of this year. And that's percentage of our total spend in that category that is on diverse suppliers. So I'm very proud of this as well, because and hopefully for a lot of you that are in the private sector and or not, that hopefully this will be a blueprint in terms of how to do a better job at this.
Let's talk about bias. How do you deal with that?
Well, this is another issue. I'll tell you the first thing that we did on this, which is a lot of things that we found is that a lot of people even on our team was when we talked about evaluating creative, we were creating a lot of situations that maybe unconscious bias was something that people weren't trying to do, but they just did anyway. So first of all, we started with training, and that completely changed the conversation internally. And then what we said is we're gonna test every ad that we put in the marketplace with the GEM score. That is one of the tools created by the ANA, and we were one of the founders of this tool that basically creates a methodology to test all of the ads on diversity scores, and now we test 100% of the ads. Imagine that when we're having a conversation about creative on the team, and we said, oh, so how did it do on the GEM score, it just makes everybody talk about this in a way that is standardized, and it creates a dialogue that before, in some cases, and you see that still happens in this day and age, that companies miss a lot of the cues around bias because maybe the conversation is not as active as it should be.
Let's talk about net zero. I was talking about that earlier this morning here. Obviously, it's a goal of a lot of corporations. I want to talk about how you think about it, how you communicate it, and your view about what role companies should have, because this is one of those things where we're going to need global citizens, we're going to need governments, and we're going to need corporations all working toward the same goal.
I tell you what, we're going back to making what we do in this space part of our strategy. We are doing, we have 3 areas in what we actually focus our plan for responsible business. Digital inclusion, and the second one is climate protection, right? And I tell you 2 examples that are really important. So we committed, obviously, like a lot of companies, to be carbon neutral by 2035, and that is, in our business, something that is really hard to do because the network, right, that you use in your phones all the time, it consumes a lot of energy, right? It's based on that. So
it's always on, apparently.
And apparently it's always on, hopefully. But then I tell you an example that we talked a lot, because I think there is this big conversation around, well, if it is good for the environment, not necessarily is going to be good for business. And that is a paradigm that we in the private sector, in collaboration with the public sector and organizations like Global Citizen, we need to continue to demystify this issue. And I tell you one of the examples that, to me, in the case of Verizon, is really key. We are now in our 5th green bond, right, in the last 2 years. And 2 things are interesting. Number one, we're in the 5th bond, and it's hard to find the investments that we can actually put our money to support those. So we want more of that. There needs to be more opportunities for us to invest in green activities. And the second thing as well is that we're getting the even better results with the green bond in terms of our investment and the yield that we will get with regular bonds. So my point is that there is a case for us for companies like Verizon to invest in green technology, in green investments, and get really good returns. I'm saying this because I would like to see anyone that has access to the ability to do things like this in your corporations to do more, to talk more about these things, and to really make things part of the strategy, which is actually what makes a difference.
Diego, thank you for this. This is a great conversation. We appreciate your time here. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you all, and great to see you.
Tony.
Thank you.